Imagine yourself relaxing at home after an amazing day. It began with burnt toast for breakfast and a missing morning newspaper. On your way into town to go shopping, you were stuck behind a real slowpoke for over 2 miles, and you missed the green light. Then the clerk at the checkout counter was very slow and very grumpy. On your way home, you got a ticket for not coming to a complete stop at a stop sign. And as soon as you entered the door, your spouse got on your case about something that was totally not your fault. What's so amazing about any of this, right? Well, you see, none of these things bothered you, not one single bit. You felt zero stress. So, after this presentation, will you have days of amazing inner calm like this? Probably not, at least not right away, but you will be able to start reducing your stress in a way that may surprise you. In this presentation, we will define what kind of stress we are dealing with. Then we will introduce you to the cultivation practice of Falun Dafa, starting with its ancient roots. After that, we will examine how stress reduction works in the context of self-cultivation. The origin of the word stress comes from the Latin strictus, meaning compressed or drawn tight. If we are uptight, for example, it means that we are experiencing stress. But what kind of stress? Defining stress is not that simple. Broadly speaking, there is good stress and there is bad stress. Many health experts will tell you that small amounts of good stress have many advantages. For example, the fight or flight response is a vital warning system that is triggered by stress. Some examples of bad stress would be prolonged exposure to a stimulus like deafening noise, extremes of hot and cold, or constant frustration. Stress has two components, a stimulus and a response. Now, the kind of stress that we are concerned with in this presentation is triggered by attachments. That is to say, these attachments act as stimuli that trigger negative responses that we call stress. We will circle back to this point in a few minutes. Now, let's build a strong framework for the process of reducing stress in our lives. Since ancient times, China has been known as Shenzhou, the land of the divine, a land where divine beings and mortals once coexisted. This refers to the belief that the divine, through various dynasties, transmitted a rich and abundant culture to the Chinese people. During the second half of China's 5,000-year history, the three major belief systems of Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism were the bedrock of Chinese civilization. Although we may think of them as religions, in a strict sense they are complete systems of self-cultivation. The self-cultivation we are talking about here involves improving one's moral and spiritual character. Falun Dafa is also a complete system of self-cultivation, with deep roots in Chinese culture and in even more ancient times that predate history. Let's move in for a closer look. Falun Dafa, also known as Falun Gong, is based on the very laws that underlie the development of the universe. The practice embraces the cosmic principle of truthfulness, compassion, forbearance. It is fully capable of guiding one's spiritual self-refinement on a path to enlightenment. And as we shall soon see, truthfulness, compassion, forbearance play a strong supportive role in helping to reduce stress in our lives. In 1992, Mr. Li Hongzhi, the founder and teacher of Falun Dafa, introduced the practice in China as a high-level form of Qigong. In 1999, Falun Dafa had become the largest and fastest-growing practice of Qigong in Chinese, if not world, history, with an estimated 100 million people practicing it. Many of these people experienced amazing and even miraculous health benefits, and the moral and spiritual aspects of this cultivation practice were exactly what had been missing in their lives ever since the Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 1976. Falun Dafa is now practiced in over 70 countries around the world. Many observers are struck by the openness of Falun Dafa in terms of both its teachings and its administration. There is no creed, no set of rules, no codified doctrine, no forms of initiation, no clergy or religious professionals, and no fees. People are encouraged to come to their own understanding of the teachings, as the emphasis is on personal growth, something which can't be coerced or programmed. The practice of Falun Dafa emphasizes improving one's moral character, or xingqing as it is called in Chinese. This is done by applying truthfulness, compassion, forbearance in one's life in all situations. When a person does this with dedication and determination, the results are quite powerful. Forgiveness replaces anger, calm replaces anxiety, frustration and greed give way to a serene inner joy that endures in even the most challenging situations. Doesn't this sound like stress reduction to you? Okay, now it's time to get down to business and see how this de-stressing process works. In a nutshell, it's all about weeding out attachments. Numerous attachments spring up in our lives like weeds choking our spiritual garden. And by spiritual garden, I mean our inner being or soul. The attachments we are talking about here can be any number of thoughts, attitudes, and feelings that we fasten or fix to ourselves. We want to hang on to these thoughts, attitudes, and feelings instead of letting them go. Greed, anger, jealousy, and lust are examples of attachments that are hard to ignore because they generate a fair amount of negative energy or stress. As you might expect, a lot of attachments like competitiveness and showing off will often go unnoticed. We all have attachments, but the challenge is to start weeding them out, if for no other reason than they do not belong in our spiritual gardens. Here's a short video that illustrates how getting rid of attachments works.
So before I practiced Falun Gong, when I got scolded by my boss or supervisor, I was very annoyed, and immediately I would complain about others, or felt it wasn't fair. But after I started practicing, the biggest lesson I learned was looking inside and always find something to improve within myself.
If I didn't like something that another person did, I would think about, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that that person does that. And I realized that it was having a direct effect on my health by having that bad thought about that person. And as soon as I realized that, I changed my thinking so that I wouldn't think about what things I didn't like or liked about other people, and more just how I should be responsible to being a good person and controlling my thinking and quieting my thinking.
The annoyance and the disliking that these practitioners initially experienced are forms of stress triggered by the exposure to negative stimuli. But then they turn the table on stress, so to speak, by first looking within themselves, seeing their attachments, and then letting it go. Letting go is the key. This is a simple and straightforward process that has to come from the heart and not just the mind. In other words, don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, just jump in and do it. Be aware, though, that many attachments aren't completely eliminated in just one pass, especially if they are deeply rooted. But with diligence and persistence, any attachment can be weeded out of our lives. Here are a couple of points to ponder. When stress rears its annoying head, who's really in control, you or the attachment? Trust your ability to look within and maintain rational control of your being. Now, in slide number 3, I said that stress involves a stimulus and a response. So think about this for a moment. When you let go of an attachment, you reduce stress, because you are in fact neutralizing the stimulus by not acknowledging it. And of course, there will be no response. No stimulus, no response, no stress. Up next, a couple of testimonials about cultivation practice.
Applying truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance to my daily life is the greatest challenge of my life, actually. You would think it's so simple, but therein lies the challenge. But everybody else around you feels it, because you become lighter, you smile a lot more, and you become much more genuine.
The first time I heard about Falun Dafa was actually when I was 12 years old. At the time, I was going through a rebellious stage. I barely talked to my parents. I come home, slam the door. Meditation taught me to look within. I started talking to my parents more. I started respecting them more. So my mother was very happy because, it's like she got her son back.
Not everyone will become full-fledged students or disciples of Falun Dafa, of course, but many people have benefited from doing the 5 gentle yet powerful Dafa exercises. Some of these people have also taken to heart the principle of truthfulness, compassion, forbearance. If they were to then start weeding out their attachments, that would be awesome, because they would be on the way to becoming a better person. If you stop to think about it, that's quite an accomplishment. There is a wealth of information about Falun Dafa online. en.falundafa.org should be one of the first websites you visit. It offers free downloads of the introductory text Falun Gong and the primary text Zhuan Falun. You can also access several audio and video files. In closing, meditation, yoga, qigong, aromatherapy, and music are some of the more popular techniques for reducing stress, but all these can be much more effective when they are part of a conscious effort to improve one's heart and mind nature. At first, self-cultivation may not seem to fit into your life, But if you try the gentle exercises and they work for you, then what do you have to lose by starting to remove those nasty weeds in your spiritual garden? A little stress, maybe? Thank you for watching. May you live long and prosper with a minimum of stress.